Hello, stars. This is Miss Fleming, ready to work on literacy with you today. Before we get started, please make sure to have a nicely sharpened pencil and a notebook ready. Before we get started with today's story, let's revisit our essential question for Module 10. Why is it important to pass stories down to the next generation? As we wrap up this module, you should already have a good idea of how to answer this question using examples from our readings. Why do you think it is important to pass down our stories? Feel free to pause this video to think about your answer. In today's lesson, we will be reading a folktale called Compay Mono and Jicotea by Joey Hayes. Our genre focus will be folktales. Do you know what a folktale is? Please turn to page 400 and let's read more about folktales. Folktales are traditional stories that have been passed down orally from one generation to another. Authors of folktales tell the story through the plot. Folktales include a moral or a lesson learned. Folktales might include magic creatures or animals that talk as characters. Folktales include the beliefs and ideas of a culture. Now, while we read this text, I want you to think about the lesson that the author is trying to teach us. Remember, folktales typically include a moral or lesson learned. So before we get started reading Compay Mono and Comay Jicotea, let's preview some vocabulary. Here at the bottom of page 400, you see the critical vocabulary words theft, inspected, sympathetic, suspicious, reputation, and crafty. Do any of these words look familiar to you? I recognize the word theft because I know that's when someone steals something. Here are the definitions of our critical vocabulary. Take some time to write these down in your notebook. Theft, the act of stealing. Inspected, viewed closely in critical appraisal. Look over. Sympathetic, feeling, showing, or expressing sympathy. Remember, stars, sympathy is feeling sorry for someone. Suspicious, tending to arouse suspicion, questionable. Reputation, overall quality or character as seen or judged by people in general. And crafty is skillful or clever. Okay, let's get started. Please turn to page 401 in your workbooks or just continue to follow this video. Remember, great readers track the words with their fingers or with their pencil. As we read, think about the question, what lesson do you think the main character will learn? Feel free to annotate the text as we read. So let's look at this cover. Wow, I love it. Let's look at the illustration and title and think about what lessons might be learned. Are you ready? Let's turn to the next page. Compay and Comay are short for compadre and comadre. If a man is godfather to your child, he is your compadre. A woman who is godmother to your child is your comadre. Since people usually choose good friends to be their child's godparent, compadre and comadre often just mean good friend. Did you notice how the author uses words in both English and Spanish? As this happens in the text, words in Spanish will be written in italics. Remember, italics means the words are slanted. Based on the author's introduction, what do you think the relationship will be between Compay Mono and Comay Jicotea? That's right. I think they will be good friends. Why don't we underline the text that led us to believe that? All right, let's keep reading. Compay Mono, the monkey, and Comay Jicotea, the turtle, were neighbors, and they seemed to be the very best of friends. Compay Mono was a hard worker. He had a fine little farm where he raised all sorts of good food. In the east, he planted pumpkins, and in the west, cassava. In the north, he raised sweet potatoes, and in the south, yams. Each day, Compay Mono visited every corner of his farm to pull the weeds and make sure no harm had come to his crops. He was looking forward to a very good harvest. So after reading that first page, I know that Comay Jicotea and Compay Mono are neighbors and best friends. Compay Mono is a farmer. He works really hard to grow pumpkins, cassava, sweet potatoes, and yams. Now he is ready for a good harvest. Let's turn to the next page. But just before the pumpkins were ready to be picked, Compay Mono noticed that someone had entered his field at night and stolen some. At least 10 of them were missing. Compay Mono was worried, and later that day he talked to his neighbor, Comay Jicotea, about the theft. So how has the author prepared us for the problem of the story? Well, in paragraph 2, I noticed the author said that Compay Mono and Comay Jicotea seemed to be the best of friends. Maybe they are not such good friends after all. Then, in paragraph 3, we learn that there is a thief stealing Compay Mono's pumpkins. You'd better stay up tonight and guard your field, the turtle told him. Stand there on that little hill at the eastern end of your farm, she advised. From there, you can keep watch over your pumpkins and see if anyone enters the field. Compay Mono followed the advice of his comadre. All night, he stood at the eastern end of his little farm, carefully watching over the pumpkin patch to make sure no one entered. But the next morning, when Compay Mono inspected the whole farm, he discovered that while he was guarding the pumpkins in the east, someone had entered the western end and stolen his yucca. Compay Mono told Comay Jicotea what had happened. You must have fallen asleep, his comadre told him. Tonight, let me guard your farm. The thief will probably enter the southern field this time. I'll stand guard there so that no one can steal your ñames. Compay Mono worked so hard on his farm, my friends. Why do you think he would let Comay Jicotea guard it one night? Let's find out. Compay Mono agreed, and that night while Comay Jicotea guarded the yams in the southern field, someone stole the boniatos in the northern field. The next day, Compay Mono told the turtle what had happened. Of course, she was very surprised and sympathetic. How could that be? She said, shaking her head. I never closed my eyes all night long. This must be a very clever thief. Compay Mono was beginning to get suspicious. He knew that Comay Jicotea had a reputation for being tricky. But monkeys can be tricky too, and Compay Mono thought of a way to find out what was going on. Yes, the monkey said to his comadre, there must be a very clever and dangerous thief in these parts. The next thing you know, they'll come into my house and steal my money. I know what I'd better do. I'm going to hide all my money up in the loft. No one would ever think of looking for it up there. Why do you think Compay Mono tells Comay Jicotea that he is going to be hiding his money? Yes, maybe Compay Mono is suspicious of Comay Jicotea. So let's make a prediction as to what will happen next. Let's read on to see if our predictions are correct. That night, Compay Mono lay awake in bed listening. Late in the night, he heard someone tugging at the door. Slowly, it opened, and then in came the humpback form of Comay Jicotea. She headed straight toward the loft and began climbing the ladder. Compay Mono jumped out of bed and grabbed her. You're the thief, he shouted. You're the one who stole my pumpkins and my yams and my yucca. And you thought you'd steal all my money too. I ought to throw you into the fire. Compay Jicotea looked very ashamed. You're right, she said. I deserve to be punished. But it won't help to throw me into the fire. My shell won't burn, and I'll never learn a lesson from that. You should just throw me into the river. I'm terrified of the cold water, but I know it's just what I deserve. Wait, why would Compay Jicotea want to be punished in water? That's right, she's trying to trick Compay Mono. Let's see if her plan works. As everyone knows, monkeys are afraid of water, and so what that crafty Jicotea said made sense to Compay Mono. He picked up the turtle and ran to the river with her. He threw her as far out into the water as he could, and of course, the tricky little Compay Jicotea swam away laughing to herself. To this day, Compay Jicotea sometimes comes out to sun herself on the bank of the river, but she spends most of her time in the water. She knows Compay Mono still wants to catch her and punish her, but she knows that if she just jumps into the river, the monkey will never dive in after her. Wow, what a great story. I want you to take a moment and open your notebook and write these questions down. What lesson did the main character learn? What does this teach us about life? Once you've written those down, take a moment to reflect on the story and write down your answer. And I'll see you guys next time for another story. Goodbye, stars.